And I think that although it would be great to be able to be in a space where like you began to work on this kind of, I call it a gradual release model around a student driving their education. Yes, it would be great in middle school, but I think also transitions are great for folks to physically and experientially feel that they're in a different phase of their
Mm.
development. And then when you think of just the developmental patterns, middle school is a very interesting place. There's a lot taking place physically, hormonally, and mentally during that time. And so even if you were to look at an eighth grader in June, and then that same person as a ninth grader in September, just what, 4 months later, developmentally, mentally, they're a different person. And I've saw it as an eighth grade teacher seeing my ninth graders come back, and I'm like, you are so much calmer and more composed in this moment. And so I think that has to be taken into account. I believe, and I'll loop back to, I do believe that we have to look at this as a gradual release model. So for one, going from like, planning for your student, which is really something that we do a lot of in elementary, sometimes in middle school, to planning with your student. So, how do we address issues? How do we identify the problem? How do we identify the timeline that is needed to address it? How do we identify the resources that are needed to be able to address the problem? And then who are the stakeholders that we need to bring in? When we're able to do that and model it with our student, we can get to a point where maybe sophomore, even for some folks, maybe starting junior year, they're able to self guide. And as a parent, you're able to just simply monitor so that in conversations where you're meeting with teachers or with school staff, you can name, like, oh, yeah, I'm aware. My child asked them to put a plan together around X. I reviewed it. It was good to go. They orchestrated that on their own, but I have been keeping a listening ear. And I think what that does is it makes it to where the school and the educators understand this is the culture of addressing issues at home. And so, how can I also sync up to make sure that we can meet a solution? I always tell parents, even if you are having your students kind of drive their success, it doesn't mean that the communication needs to stop. A simple text message or just a note to whoever it may be to just say, hey, I'm aware that Cedric is working on getting these assignments in. Let me know if you have any questions or needs. I think really empowers students to self advocate while knowing that there is that bridge and knowing that family is aware and connected to what is going on, but wanting them to build the skills so that that can translate later in life.
Yes. Oh, I love that gradual release model. Absolutely. I mean, that is development, right? Development happens in stages and phases, and we're not ready for the next until we get through that first. And so you're right to go along with that is probably the best way. And it can start young, right? Even when your child first starts having homework. It starts then, right? From modeling and saying, like, here's our space where we do homework. Okay, let's make sure your desk is cleared off. All right, let's take a look at what you have for homework, right? Getting those out, those things. Okay, let's make sure you have your pencil and your eraser. I mean, and that's how it starts. You start off modeling and setting those up, but then they start to know, okay, these are the kinds of things that I need to have prepared or be on top of when I sit down to do my work, or establishing the habit of like, hey, when we come home, number one priority is making sure we take care of our obligations, our work, our school obligations first. We're going to knock those out first, and when they get to that point, then showing how to, okay, how much time does this take? How do we, let's start with the thing that's going to take the longest and move from there. And all of those things as they go along, you help to initially set in motion. And then you're right, as they hit each next stage, you release that to them. Okay, now this is yours, but in the meantime, you have been kind of giving them, as we do with anything in raising them, you kind of give them the tools, the options that they have and how to navigate these things so that they are then able to do that on their own. And just to name them, so for any parents out there, I know most of us know what executive functioning skills are, but specifically things like being able to plan and organize, manage deadlines, prioritize what needs to happen first before going on to the next thing, following a syllabus and breaking down larger assignments, which happens a lot in college, right? You get this big assignment, you know it's coming, it's due way down, and then it's entirely up to the student to then lay out the plan of like how they're going to approach it and break it down. So those are those key things that can start to be built, really from the time a child starts to become a student. right? This is the role that we are preparing them for.
Thank you for listening to the Willow Kids podcast.